West Midlands Police had to pay out £9,000 last year fixing cars which have had the wrong fuel put in. It's according to a Freedom of Information request. The force has now launched a sticker campaign to help remind officers that they've got to put diesel in their petrol cars or in their patrol cars and not petrol. Paul Webb is the Director of Fuel Rescue, who help fix cars that have been filled with the wrong fuel. Paul, good morning.
Good morning, Pete.
Is this quite a common thing of people just getting it all mixed up?
It is. It's become more common in recent years, probably over the last 5 years or so.
Why is that?
Mainly, there's more diesel cars on the road. That's one big reason. It's probably half and half now, petrol to diesel vehicles on the road, so that's a big reason. Diesels are a lot quieter now than they used to be, and I think that the English psyche is really geared up for petrol use. They've been using diesel a lot longer on the continent, so it doesn't happen quite as often in Europe as it does in the UK, and we think it's just simply down to that.
Is it right, or is this some kind of, mechanics myth that petrol in a diesel tank isn't as bad as diesel in a petrol tank?
No, it's the other way around, actually. Petrol in a diesel on modern diesel cars is much worse.
Really?
Yes. It can be horrendously expensive. On older vehicles, it was probably the other way around, really. With the evolution of the modern diesel engine, effectively, the cost of repair is much worse on a petrol into a diesel engine. And it's obviously much easier to put petrol into a diesel engine because the petrol nozzle is much smaller, so it goes straight into the diesel hole on your vehicle.
Because that was the thing I couldn't understand when I first heard about this story. It was like, well, how are you putting diesel in a petrol? Because surely the nozzle's too big to go in.
Yeah, diesel into a petrol, it does happen, but in our experience, it's less than 1 in 10. We would suggest that 95% of what we do is petrol into diesel.
Right, okay.
So,
what are people giving you as excuses?
We've heard it all, really. But most people, to be fair, are either very busy, something else on the mind, something that day could have upset them, or they're just very busy people, leading very busy lives, and they've usually got one car at home that's petrol and one car that's diesel. That's probably the most common reason they're running two vehicles. A
mate of mine once did it, because I said earlier on, it's something that happened to me, and we ended up spending about 6 hours on the hard shoulder of the M40.
Oh, dear.
And he, to this very day, claims that the petrol station had made a mistake. And that it was, because he drove a diesel car, it was petrol coming out of the diesel nozzle. Apparently that was the mistake. Not him, it was the petrol station.
Well, your friend has got a point. It does happen. I used to work in the forecourt industry, and occasionally the tanker driver can get it wrong and petrol can go into diesel. But if that happens, it's usually more than one car that gets affected. Everything shuts down within a 5-mile radius, basically. So, but it doesn't happen these days very often at all with modern training and techniques. The tanker drivers generally do an excellent job. So it doesn't happen.
If you do it and you realise, maybe you've just filled up your tank and you think, and as you're putting the nozzle back in, you think, oh no, wait a minute, that's petrol. It should have been diesel or the other way around. Is it best to just not drive the car anywhere and give you guys a call or somebody else, your equivalent, a call?
We would generally suggest that a small quantity isn't going to affect the car, but we always err on the side of caution, especially with newer vehicles. Basically, the newer the car, the less you can get away with. That's a good guide, and we would suggest phoning an expert. They can either phone a dealership or a company like ourselves that's accredited to do the job, and we will give advice. We give advice over the phone that somewhere up to a point of around 7% of your tank volume, which on an average 60-litre tank is 4 to 5 litres, that is where we would suggest you've got to be extremely careful whether you drive it or not, whether you top the vehicle up or not. Because with modern sensors on the fuel systems and on the heat sensors on the exhaust, the car will pick it up anyway. And so you not only have you can compound the mistake because effectively you'll top it up with 80 quid's worth of diesel or whatever, and you've still got to have it drained because the car knows that you've done it. They're very intelligent these days.
They are indeed. Listen, Paul, cracking to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. Paul Webb, the director of Fuel Rescue, helping to fix cars that have done this very thing, filled up with the wrong kind of fuel. 27 minutes past 6 now.